Guys, welcome to your YouTube test review. How exciting. Today we're just I'm going to run through the material kind of quickly, give you the main facts, the things maybe you should know for the test. Just a quick review, quick recap of everything U.S. government. So hang on to your seats, this is going to be a fun ride. So we began our discussion of government with the English philosophers and their beliefs on what government should be. We talked about two main philosophers, John Locke. John Locke believed in, a social contract where the government would provide protection to the citizens if the citizens followed the rules. So that was John Locke's social contract. And he was also concerned with natural rights. And natural rights, in John Locke's opinion, were life, liberty, and property. Three things the government could not take away from you. They couldn't take away your life, they couldn't take away your liberty, or your property. So that was John Locke. And we adopted a lot of those beliefs from John Locke into our government today. We also talked about Baron Montesquieu. And Baron Montesquieu wanted separation of powers. He didn't want one particular part of government to be supreme. So he thought that, to get away from maybe a ruler or a monarch, we could, balance the powers a little more. Have one, power do this, one power do that. That was Baron Montesquieu, and we kind of adopted things from him too. So there were the two English philosophers we adopted ideas. Okay, so our founders then got together after they looked at these English ideas, these English philosophers, and created our first constitution. What was it? The Articles of Confederation. That's right. The Articles of Confederation, those were our first constitution. It was our first national constitution that kind of united the nation. Well, it didn't really unite the nation, actually. What it did was it created strong states, but no strong central government. The feds were too weak. That's why it failed. We didn't have a president. We could declare war, but we had no army to send to war. We didn't have a national currency. There was no interstate commerce. There was no way to, have the federal government help out states if a state needed help. The states were like individual countries. So, they're travel from Ohio to Pennsylvania, you might have had to get your currency switched. You might have had to, pay a tax to get into Pennsylvania. Taxes were different. Some states maybe charged a lot of taxes. Other states might charge a little bit of taxes. States were run by governors and whoever, and they were the main leaders. But there was no main leader in the United States. There was no main leader. There was no unity under the Articles of Confederation, and that's what really led to its decline. However, it did provide something that was very good, which was the land ordinances of 1785 and 1787, which kind of just said that, hey, you settlers, you want somewhere else to go, you want to move out, there's this nice new northwestern territory that's open for you guys. So come on in, and you can enjoy this land. So a lot of settlers moved up to the northwest, and they settled their land, and once they had enough citizens, around 30,000
60,000.
Declaring statehood. They can form their own little government, and they can petition for statehood. And eventually, that's what happened. And we formed this territory from the Articles of Confederation, which was a plus. However, the Articles did fail. And one of the reasons the Articles failed was an event by the name of Shays' Rebellion. And Shays' Rebellion took place in Massachusetts when a lot of these angry farmers, led by Daniel Shays, decided to, revolt against, this new government. Because everything that Britain was doing to them, this new government was doing the same thing. They were overtaxing. They were throwing, these poor farmers into debtor's jail because they couldn't pay their debts. They couldn't do anything. Taxes were sky high. So they were throwing these people in jail, and a lot of them died in jail. And so Daniel Shays revolted with, a lot of his farmers, and they're like, hey, this isn't fair, let's revolt. And they did. Massachusetts government was on the phone with, federal government, like, hey, federal government, help us out, send us some troops. They're like, sorry, under the Articles of Confederation, we can't do anything. So they didn't do anything. And by not doing anything, and by the fact that they couldn't do anything, led to the decline of the Articles, and led to, George Washington and James Madison coming together in Philadelphia to start writing a new Constitution. So now the framers of the Constitution are in Philadelphia. They're meeting together to create a new Constitution. And the first thing they do at the convention, which was held in secrecy, was elect George Washington as the president of the convention. Why did they elect George Washington? Well, he was a known leader. He was a strong leader. And who wouldn't want George Washington there to, rein all these strong personalities in? So George Washington, president of the Constitutional Convention. Then we have James Madison, what I like to call the cheerleader of the Constitutional Convention. He was the most excited person there. He was so excited to be involved in this, new convention, to write this Constitution. He was the first one there. He took awesome notes, and he was just so excited. He had his own plan of government, what he wanted, and he was there, and he was ready to go. So James Madison was done as the father of the Constitution, because a lot of his ideas and a lot of what he did went into the Constitution, and he was a big, big component of our Constitution today. So Washington was the president of the convention, and Madison was the father of the Constitution. During the Constitutional Convention, there were debates going on about representation within the states. Should we have a lot of representation, or should we have a little representation? We had two plans that emerged. The Virginia Plan and the New Jersey Plan. The Virginia Plan said that the more people you had in your state, the more votes you got in Congress. So Virginia was a large state plan because it was a large state. It had a lot of people in it. So the more people you have, the more votes you get in Congress. Well, you know what? New Jersey didn't like that. New Jersey was a small state. They didn't have it as many people. So they weren't going to get as big as a say. So they created their own plan. The New Jersey Plan. And what it said was every state gets one vote. Population does not matter. So every state is kind of equal. Is on the equal level with representation. So even the smaller states had their voices heard. Well, Virginia did not like that, because they're like, hey, but we're bigger. How could little states know the needs of a big state? So what happened was they compromised and created this thing called the Great Compromise. And what the Great Compromise was, they kind of brought these two plans together. And they created a two-house Congress, a bicameral Congress, with the House of Representatives and the Senate. The upper house is the Senate. The Senate has two votes per state. We have 2 senators per state. So, equal representation among the states. Then, we go to the lower house, the House of Representatives. And they have population representation. So, the more people you have in an area, the more representation you get. So, back then it was one representative for every 30,000 people. That's how you were represented in Congress. So we kind of had a different thing going on. We had, a Senate, equal representation, and a House of Representative with representation based on population. So that was the compromise made. That was the Great Compromise. And it's still around today. It made up Congress. So Congress, House, and the Senate.